Hello Lloyd, this is the testing video for your LS400 1UZ-FE VVT-i 98-2000 harness built for your RX8. So we're going to go through all the specific stuff for you there. So just to show you obviously where everything goes, so when you get it you know exactly where to put everything. So coming down to here, obviously we've got the grommet in the middle there, that's going to obviously run through your firewall there. Coming in there, you've got that junction box over there. Coming down there, you obviously plug into your ECU, all the 6 plugs over there, and then you've got the one coming off the harness going to the fuse box, and then you've got the other one coming off the harness going to the fuse box over there. And then this is your customer plug, which we'll go through all the wires in a minute. I do obviously have the welcome pack here, so we'll go through all of them on the video, but you'll be receiving that with your harness as well. Right, so coming around the back here, you've obviously got the big piece of plastic that goes along the back there. You'll see you've got a bolt hole over here, you've got a bolt hole over there, and then coming over this side here, you've got a bolt hole over there. We're using a 3UZ, so obviously this one and this one don't line up. You'll see the 3UZ has a different bolt pattern for these black piece of plastics. So we'll come around this side first, so you're going to go over the top here. You've got this piece of black plastic. You've got 2 bolts there and there. And then this should have, you should have like a noise filter over here that this is going to plug straight into, okay? We have removed the evap solenoid, so there's a vacuum solenoid valve here. You can remove that off the engine, so that's no longer necessary anymore. But going back to the black plastic over here, now we have changed it up slightly to make it easier, or sorry, I do apologize. We've got basically this injector, which is number 7, coming out over here. And then on this section over here, we've got the coil 5 that goes over there. We've got injector 5. Now coil 7 does come out of here, but it is much longer. So obviously this one is not long enough to reach over to this coil, so it should be relatively straightforward to plug that in over there. Coming forward now, we've got this section over here. So that's going to come out to injector 3 and coil 3, and then your cam sensor for your inlet cams on this one for the VVT-i. Coming forward, it's just going to run along down here, and then we're going to have a breakout at the front here, which is going to go to injector 1 and coil 1. So remember, this is the left bank, that's the right bank. And you're going to have your oil control valve coming out there as well. Coming a little bit further down, you're going to have your breakout for your accelerator position sensor, which is on this side over here where your accelerator cable goes. Obviously it's drive-by-wire, so that's why that's an accelerator position sensor. It's not actually connected to the throttle, it is drive-by-wire. Coming down again in that same spot, you're breaking out. Now this is obviously for your TPS, so you'll see that there's actually a sub harness that goes underneath here, and there's your TPS over there. Coming a little bit further down, it's going to break out again down here, and it's going to go to your drive-by-wire clutch and motor plug, which is over here. It's going to break out to go to your cam sensor, which is over there, and then you're going to see that you've got these 2 little holes here, which should have plastic clips in there to hold that out of the way over there. It's going to come down along here. Obviously this is where your aircon pump would have been, and you see there's a little hole in there, and you'll see it breaks off at the top here for your oil and your crank. So you go down through there, coming out down here where your crank sensor is. Your oil will come out over here because your one on an LS400 is obviously facing backwards. This is an LS430 engine, so your oil switch is not going to be there. Your whole housing is different, so that's going to come out at the top there and go around to there. Okay, so working our way back, obviously that's that side over there. Coming down to this side over here, you're going to have your Lambda sensor, which is coming down there, and then you'll see there's an actual bolt on, so it keeps it nice and tight inside the cavity there. There is a heat shield in here, so please put that back in, otherwise the plug is going to get extremely hot here, unless you're going to wrap your exhaust, in which case, as long as you can stop the heat barrier here. But there is a metal plate that does bolt to the block that this tucks in behind, so it should keep it nice and neat and away from the exhaust. Second thing coming out there is going to be your earthing strap. So you've got one over here, and then obviously your sub harness, which you still have on your engine over there, is going to come out, and it's going to plug into this plug over here. So that's where your starter and your 2 knock sensors are. So we've got a temporary testing unit in here, as well as your main power cable for your starter is going to come out there, and obviously we've got it onto our battery over here. Right, I'm going to move around to the other side now. And again, moving along the black plastic here, you've got your second earth strap that's coming out over there and bolts in over there. Okay, so again, you see you've got 2 holes on this one over here. So just pick one of them and bolt it into there. Hopefully the bolts are still there for you. Okay, as you come around the back here, at this first breakout at the end of the plastic, we're going to have coil 8 and injector 8 coming out there. Coming further along, we're going to have another breakout, and that's going to go to your ACIS, which is a little plug over here. So this might be dangling around a bit if you've taken the intake off. So you just need to find that plug, and that one goes under the intake to the ACIS system underneath. And I've got a video about the ACIS system if you want to watch that. So you can just have a look through all of our videos to find that one. And then again, coming forward, then it's going to break out again, and it's going to go, oh sorry, here you got your injector 6 and coil 6, which breaks out with the ACIS. And then coming forward, you've got another breakout, which is going to be your cam sensor underneath there. And then you're going to have injector 4 and coil 4. Coming a bit forward again, and it's going to break out to obviously injector 2 and coil 2. And at this breakout, you've also got your oil control valve for your VVT. And then coming down here, you've got your temperature sensor. Now, you should have a bolt at the bottom there. You don't have to worry about that because you're using the RX8 converter. It's actually going to take the MPX data of Coolant Temp, and it's going to transmit it through that device via CAN to your dash. Okay, coming a bit further down, and then you're going to break out to your mass airflow sensor. So in our case, we're just using a 3UZ one because it works well for testing purposes. You should have a big bullet one that goes in there. Please note, the wiring is different between the bullet one and this one. I've seen many people try and use this one because the plug is the same. If you do that, you blow up the intake air temperature circuit on these because it feeds 12 volts directly down the IAT. So again, make sure big bullet one, that I call it a bullet because if you pull it out, it looks like a bullet basically. Okay, and that goes into here. So then we take our way further down over here, and then you'll see that we've now included, so this is all new, so we've included the 3-pin alternator plug in the back over here. And going further along down to there, and then you should have your Lambda sensor, which should have a bracket at the back of the block here for you. All right, so that's how it all goes on. So hopefully when you get it, it's nice and easy, and hopefully nothing is going to stump you there. And so now we're going to move over to the actual Klein plug over here. So I'm going to run through the very basic stuff. You'll see I've got these 2 red ones taken out because obviously we're feeding our power into there. So you've got your 2 red ones there. You just supply those with permanent 12 volt supply and not an ignition source, because that's what's going to keep the memory in the ECU to store codes if you need to do diagnostics. The gray one over here, that's your 12 volts for your fuel pump. That is controlled in here. So there is a relay capable of 25 amps to control the fuel pump. That is a 16 gauge wire, which is usually fine for your average fuel pump. If you find that you want to have a very big pump and you're not sure whether that wire is going to be enough, you can use that 12 volts to trigger another relay in the back by the fuel pump. So do feel free to do that if you want to. And then coming over to the rest that are in here currently, nice and simple, black with a red tracer, that's your ignition source. Do remember, when you're looking for an ignition source, make sure it's not the accessory feed, because the accessory feed cuts 12 volts when you move to the starting position, and effectively you're going to be turning off the ECU every time you crank it. All right, so just make sure of that. And then you've got your black with the yellow tracer, that's your 12 volt start signal. So these can all be got from the key barrel. Just tap into there and go from there. In terms of signals, you've got your yellow with the black, which is your oil light. That you're going to be taking to your converter device. That's what's going to transmit the data via CAN to the actual ECU, to your cluster for the RX8. Okay. Coming down here, you've got your yellow with the red. That's your check engine light. Okay. Then you've got your yellow, which is your tacho feed. And you've got your other wires here, which I'm going to go through now. So just moving over to here. We've got our pink with the blue. Now that's the MPX signal, so that's the data coming from the ECU that's going to transmit to this, which is then going to output CAN to your dash. So that's going to go straight from there to there. Then you've got the red with the blue. That's the 12 volts for the converter. Now, obviously, we do require these to get a specific 12 volts and earth, so I've taken care of that for you inside the Fusebox. So your 12 volts and your earth are going to come from there, and your 12 volts is going to be the red with the blue, and your earth is going to be the orange. Okay, and we've been through the yellow and black, which is your oil pressure, and obviously we've built in the OBD2 connector, so you can plug in for live data, which obviously we've got set up over here, so we can go through all of that. Okay, so hopefully that's nice and simple. You will get instructions with this, don't stress, but basically to make it nice and easy, you're going to connect 12 volts and earth, which you're going to get from here. You need to connect the oil light, because oil light data is not transmitted by a 1UZ VVT-i ECU, or specifically the LS400 or Celsius. Okay, the rest of the stuff like coolant temperature, alternator light is connected to the ECU, and it is in your case, so that's going to transmit via MPX to over there. and so on. So very little to connect into there, but I will give you the full instructions for that, because you're effectively going to connect that, and then you've got to do can high and can low, and that you're going to get either from the back of your cluster or from your OBD2 connector. Two places where you can tap into, but that's up to you on your side. Okay, so what we're going to basically be testing today, now that we've gone through that, is we're going to be looking at the dash light. So in our case, I'm testing the oil light to make sure that works. Alternator's plugged directly into the ECU, so that'll be transmitting via that. I don't have an RX8 Dash, I'm afraid, to check and make sure, but yeah, so I have checked it in the wiring side, it is all connected correctly. Then we're going to check the OBD2 machine, so I'm going to actually fire this up, show that it communicates, show that it shows an LS400, and then we'll go for that. Then we're going to do the fuel pump, so I can test the fuel pump via the OBD2 machine. The fuel pump is controlled via the ECU. I do have a video on how the fuel pump systems work, so don't remember, this won't prime when you turn the key on. It only activates when it gets a starter signal, when you crank it, or when the engine's running via the crank angle signal. Okay, but if you want more information, go find that video. It's a lot more in depth than that. Right, then we're going to get the engine running. We're going to check the drive-by-wire is working, so obviously we're just going to rev it up. That'll show us that's working. We're going to use our OBD2 machine to test both VVT-i solenoids, make sure they're working. Then what we're going to do is our tack signal is connected to our RX200 cluster here, so we're going to make sure that that's working. We've also got a check engine light connected to here as well, so we'll make sure those are all working. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to run around the motor, and I'm going to unplug each injector one by one, so these aren't pushed in all the way. I'm just going to boom, 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 and you'll hear each cylinder misfire as I pull them off, so we're happy that all cylinders are firing as they should do. All right, starter, well, self-explanatory. If the vehicle cranks over, then we know the starter works. The ACIS, now that's the acoustic control induction system. Again, I said earlier, you've got a video there, but all we're looking for is this valve at the back here is effectively going to close those valves as soon as we start up, a few seconds after startup, okay? And then obviously we're going to check the codes in the ECU to make sure they're all removed, because obviously you've already had the Atomy device and everything installed in the ECU itself. So that will just double make sure that all the codes are not there. But obviously I have already tested it. We've got 0 check engine lights with running, so that's fantastic. All right, there is actually one thing I missed, and I do apologize. You've got a white with a blue wire here. Now that is what I call a clutch switch, and it is called a clutch switch here, but basically nice and simple. If you have a clutch switch, you can take it through there. On the other side of the clutch switch, you connect an earth, so the vehicle won't start unless you have the clutch pressed in. If you don't have a clutch switch, just take that white with the blue wire and connect it to earth anywhere near the fuse box, and just leave it there permanently. So it's providing the earth for the starter relay. Okay, so that's just a system we've put in for guys that want to use that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're obviously going to turn the system on. So we obviously know our oil light's already working. So I'm just going to connect the red with a black tracer into there. Okay, so now we can see we've got check engine light. So this little LED inside the fuse box, that is check engine light. Coming over here, we can see it's coming up over there, so we know we're happy with that wire over there. And that's all working as it should. I can hear the throttle humming away there, so I know all the drive-by-wire is working. But moving over now, we're going to go over to the OBD2. Now it does take ages to load up, so I have loaded it up already, so I don't have to wait all that time. So I'm just going to go into Function, System Select, and you can see there at the top, LS400. Right, we're going to go into Engine and ECT. I'm going to go into Data List. And what we're going to see is all the data that it's going to pull in. So we can see coolant temp 37, intake air 19, throttle position 16%. So we're getting all that live data through over there. So moving on now, we're going to test the fuel pump. So I'm going to quickly go into active test. Oh, hang on. Yeah, so fuel pump. Remember, watch my video that explains that fuel pump relay that you see over there. It is a bit misleading. Okay, so as I press this arrow, you're going to hear the relay click. There you go, and you should hear the pump going wild. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so we're happy with all of that. So next up, we're going to go into there. So obviously the engine's going to make a lot of noise because it has no exhaust on. So just going to quick recap for you. What I'm going to basically do is start it up. We'll rev it to make sure the drive-by-wire is working. I'm going to move over to the machine. We're going to go into active test. You'll see it's going to be oil control valve bank 1, bank 2. The engine's going to change its note and it's going to sound really rough as I do it, but that's just proof that it is actually working. Then what we'll do is move over to the dash, check the tacho's working over there. Then we're going to move over to the engine, unplug each injector one by one, just to make sure each cylinder is firing. And then we'll check at the back of the engine and make sure that that valve has gone to the closed position. And then what we'll do is I'll unplug the fuel pump, let it run dry, so I don't want to kill the ignition, and then we'll go into the codes over there. But you'll see as soon as I started this light, check engine light will go out. So I'm just going to quickly put my earmuffs on so I don't go deaf. Right, so again, nice and simple. I've got the white or the blue earthed out, and I'm just going to start it with the black with the yellow tracer. Okay, and there you go. Right. Okay, so now we're going to go into trouble codes over here. And there you'll see we've got the SLN circuit. So basically there should be another 3 in here. So you've got SLN, SLT, and SLU that should pop up. The Atomu device gets rid of all the other codes, but obviously SLN, SLU, and SLT, they don't cause a check engine light to run, as you can see, and they don't affect performance. But yeah, so you should see those 2 extra 1 comes up from there. And I think your secondary oxygen sensors have been removed when this ECU was worked on. So yeah, you shouldn't have those, but in worst case scenario, you'll have 27, 29, and you'll have this one over here. Now, you do have a means of reading the codes via the actual Fusebox. So if you don't have access to an OBD2 machine, you can do that, and I'm going to quickly show you how to do that now. So effectively what you're going to do is you've got your lid with your fuse puller over there. If you take a look here, you'll see that there looks like there should be a fuse in there, but there isn't. That is normal. Don't put a fuse in there. When you do bridge those together, it's going to put it into diagnostics mode. So what you do is basically take this 5 amp fuse, which is the starter circuit, okay, and you bridge those 2 together, and you'll see what's happening there. The actual ECU is picking up that there's no codes. That's why you don't get a check engine light for that SLN or SLT or SLU. So again, constant flash, 0 codes. Okay, as you take it out, it'll go back to normal again. Now, there is another little trick that happens when you put it into diagnostic mode. It does lock the timing at 10 degrees. So please do not bridge this terminal and forget about it and leave it, because then you're going to lock your engine at 10 degrees. Now the reason that is so that you can actually check the timing without having to pull all the covers off. So if you want to do that, I do actually have a video of how to check your timing, but when you bridge those 2 terminals over there, you can get yourself a timing light, wrap it around here. If your timing light will pick up from just the wiring going to the coil. If not, unfortunately, you've got to pull the coil out, get a separate leaf, like from an old non-VVT-i 1UZ, push it in there, push it into the coil, and then put your clamp around there. And then if you come down to here, you'll see you've got your timing marks. You see you've got, let me get down there, so you've got 0, 5, 10, and 15. 10 is obviously labeled quite big, that's why they use it. And if you look down there, you'll see I've cleared up the mark and actually put some white paint on there just to clear it up. So basically when you use your timing light, if you've got that, that fuse closed to bridge that thing to put it in diagnostics mode, what you're going to end up with is the engine's locked to 10 degrees of timing, so you can check it. So if you do have a feeling that the timing is not 100% correct, before you pull all the covers and everything off, you can literally just do that with a timing light. If you get 10 degrees, happy days. If not, then you know that the timing is out somewhere over there. Okay, so the most important thing is do not leave that connected, because you're going to lose a lot of power with 10 degrees. Also, do make sure that this valve works, because you are going to lose a lot of low down torque if this valve is broken. If you want to, and you are going to pull the intake off to, I don't know, repair the starter or whatever you want to do, then what I would advise you do is, if you look under the intake, you'll see the black big canister, the vacuum canister, and you'll see the little red vacuum solenoid valve underneath there. You can apply 12 volts and ground to that and just make sure that it clicks. If it doesn't click, then replace it before you put it on, because obviously the next step is to pull the whole intake off again just to replace that valve. So it's definitely worth checking before you go the whole 9 yards and get everything buttoned up from there. Okay, but so yeah, that is pretty much everything there. I've tested everything. I'm happy. It all runs. All cylinders are firing as they should. Everything seems to be working. But yeah, so what you'll get is, we'll get this in a box and I'll get it off to you. We will give you the instructions for this, but again, it's really, really simple. I can talk you through that. You'll get your welcome pack to explain every single wire over here in detail, so you know how to connect it in. But thanks for watching, and if anybody else has any questions or wants to know more, please feel free to put comments down below. You can also find us at Phoenix Engine Management on Facebook. And yeah, so Lloyd, let's get this packed up and off to you so you can get your RX8 running. And everyone else, thanks for watching. We'll see you again. Bye-bye.